A player named Kiteneeks was Jagex's first rival.
Damn.
His bot Auto Rune caused the Great Party Hat duplication glitch, stole a Jagex moderator's account, and broke the game in ways that are actually impossible today. You'll soon see why everybody called him the king of RuneScape cheating. Now, I need to give a bit of backstory first. Back in the early days of RuneScape, all discussion about how to cheat in the game happened on a forum called RB Cheats. A few players had posted downloadable cheats for RuneScape, but they were almost all just malware designed to steal your RuneScape account. However, there were a few exceptions like Nicholas Sherlock's AutoMiner and RuneBot. They were some of RuneScape's earliest bots, programs that played the game for you, but by the time Kiteneeks came into the picture, they were both gone. They were either shut down by Jagex or, in Nick's case, shut down by his dad. RuneScape cheating looked pretty bleak, and it had only really just started.
07 to that guy whose dad said you gotta stop using the PC. Truly, that was a rough day for Nick. Can we get can I get an 07 in the chat for Nick whose like botting operation was stopped by his dad? Truly, sometimes it is your own people that fuck you over.
But a few community members wanted to change that. The first step was uprooting the community from the malware-infested RB Cheats forum. RB Cheats actually wasn't a forum devoted to RuneScape cheating. You remember as a kid looking up cheat codes for games? Like you press a certain button combination and get a jetpack or become invincible? My favorite cheat code personally was for Sonic 06. You would just hold and release the power button and you don't have to play it anymore. RB Cheats was meant for video game cheat codes. It just so happened to have an unmoderated forum attached to it where people would discuss RuneScape cheating programs. So a forum member named Evil Cow God stepped up and created a forum called Evil Cow God Technologies. On this new website, there wasn't any malware, but the cheats being created weren't all that impressive. There were things like autotypers and a program that could remove ads from the RuneScape client. Convenient, but not even close to AutoMiner or RuneBot. But that all changed when Kiteneeks found Evil Cow God's forums. About a year prior, Kiteneeks had an idea for a RuneScape bot program, but never followed through with it. But pretty soon, this idea would change RuneScape forever. But first, I'd like to change your diet with today's sponsor, Factor.
We gotta do it.
And eating healthy doesn't have to feel like your first time at Jad. Factor offers chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals that get delivered straight to your door. Then, my favorite part is all you need is 2 minutes to heat it up. No prepping, cooking, cleaning, or even logging out of RuneScape. The cherry on top is that they're a lot healthier than takeout and don't show up 40 minutes late, lukewarm, and half-eaten. Choose from a weekly menu with 35 options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or...
By the way, to anyone who's wondering why we're not skipping the ad, we are watching his content for free. Therefore, we will be watching the ads too, okay? The least we can do, the bare minimum. Also, we are dropping a fat fucking like because bare minimum, you know, if my exes can't give me the bare minimum, I will give someone else a bare minimum. Let's go.
Or vegan and veggie. Plus, there's 60 add-on options each week, like breakfast, on-the-go snacks, and beverages. Or if you're looking for something a little fancier, Factor also offers meals with premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, broccolini, and more. My favorite of which has to be the truffle butter filet mignon. It is truly amazing. You just have to try it. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your first month of orders using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen with your phone. So this is how Kiteneeks' idea would work without going too far into the weeds. Today, bots have to pretend to be human, move the mouse naturally, make mistakes, and log out every so often to take breaks. Back in Classic, botters didn't have to worry about any of that. Clicks and key presses weren't monitored at all. So bots didn't emulate clicks, they manipulated network packets, the things that get sent back and forth between your game client and RuneScape's server. So let's say you click on this tile to walk here. Your game client sends a packet to RuneScape servers saying, I'm walking to this tile. The server will receive the packet, say, okay, move you there, and send a packet back to tell the client that you're now standing on that tile. When Kiteneeks learned this, he had an idea. If I save a copy of a few packets, like the one sent when mining these rocks, walking to the bank, opening the bank, depositing the items, and so on, maybe I could write a program that sends these packets for me. money, meaning he doesn't have to play the game. The program, which he would soon name Auto Rune, would be like a middleman between the RuneScape client and RuneScape server. To put it simply, Auto Rune could do anything in the game that you wanted, and since there was no bot protection yet, Jagex would have no idea you were using it. Kiteneeks discussed this idea with a few forum members, and one told him that this would be impossible. Kiteneeks took this as a challenge, and just a week later, he had done it. In September of 2002, he released Auto Rune to the public. It included a free script that mined iron in Varrock, smelted it at the Lumbridge furnace, smithed it at Varrock's anvils, banked the items in Varrock's East Bank, and repeated.
I'm just saying, I vaguely remember my ex using like something to help him like AFK farm. 90%. I vaguely remember that shit. And when he went to sleep, it was me who farmed. It was me all along.
Now, what really separated Auto Rune from previous bots was that it was scriptable. You didn't have to wait for Kiteneeks to make a script for the activity that you wanted to bot. If you knew how to code, you could write scripts for it yourself. Some examples are picking up fish that other players would drop in Karamja, sailing back to the mainland, banking them, returning to Karamja, and repeating. Or, my favorite, a bot that walks in large circles around the entire RuneScape map. Every 10 seconds, it would shout, "I am the RuneScape Express, follow me for a free ride." And legitimate players, not knowing that this was a bot, could follow it and hop off at their destination. As someone with an Iron Man account who only just recently unlocked the magic level for most teleports, I kind of wish this was still around today. Now, compared to the absolutely insane bots that exist now that can defeat the game's hardest content over and over again like they're nothing, this may seem sort of primitive, but it was absolutely groundbreaking at the time. Nobody had ever created a bot like this. Now, with great power comes great responsibility, and Kiteneeks wanted to make sure only people he trusted could use Auto Rune. Anyone who wanted to use Auto Rune needed an account, so players would reach out to Kiteneeks to ask for an account. He would make them one, they would log in on the Auto Rune client, and could get to botting. Now, Kiteneeks was doing this entirely for free. He was in it solely for the love of the project, but that didn't last long. Kiteneeks didn't have internet one day, but an impatient user wanted their Auto Rune login. This user offered him money if he could somehow get it done. So Kiteneeks had a friend who was helping him with Auto Rune generate the account for the user and send it over. This same friend would soon convince Kiteneeks that they should start selling access to Auto Rune and not just give it away for free. Kiteneeks agreed, and in late 2002, you could purchase an Auto Rune account for just $10. For those who couldn't pay or wanted to see what they were getting into before paying, Kiteneeks would post a free trial version of Auto Rune, but he would later regret it for reasons we'll get into soon. Botting was becoming a pretty noticeable problem at this point, so Jagex decided to make a pretty fundamental change to RuneScape. On November 13th, they introduced the fatigue system. As you trained your skills, your fatigue percentage would increase. Eventually, at 100% fatigue, you'd be too tired to gain any more XP, and would need to eat food to lower it slightly, or rest at a bed to drop it back to 0% completely. This system didn't do much of anything to stop Auto Rune, and annoyed regular players to no end. All Auto Rune users had to do was edit their scripts so their bots would stop by a bed whenever their fatigue hit 100%. As Auto Rune's popularity grew, so did the amount of players interested in purchasing it. Kiteneeks soon became annoyed with having to create accounts for new customers every day and explain to them how to use Auto Rune. His real passion was just improving the program. So on December 1st, 2002, he sold.
Bro is not a businessman. This man is not Blue Rose 13 X Blue Rose 13X. He is just a guy. He is not a businessman. Oh wow. I think it's I don't know, it sounds like it's one time, but ooh.
Both the source code and copyrights of Auto Rune to a user named Corin for $500. Corin would handle the account creation, while Kiteneeks agreed to stay on and update Auto Rune for free. But then everyone got banned. On December 12th, 2002, Jagex made a post called Cheating Scum Banned. They announced that they had just banned 400 players for using bots, many of which were Auto Rune users. Nobody knew how this happened, not even Kiteneeks. The main theory was that someone from Jagex had downloaded the free trial of Auto Rune and learned how the program worked. They then changed something in Runescape's code to be able to detect Auto Rune users, but nobody knew what that change was. Auto Rune still worked, but you'd get banned soon after using it, so Kiteneeks and a few other users signed up on fresh accounts and decided to show Jagex what they thought about these changes.
Okay.
With something that I think you'll need to see to believe.
Okay.
So, because of the way Auto Rune worked, not only could you use scripts to send packets to
Wait, guys. If you already know what is happening in the story, how ready am I for this?
Hi besties, it's me, Miwa, and if you're enjoying today's video, please consider subscribing, okay? Like, please, times a billion. I'm like really asking this of you, ne?
How ready am I for this? I don't know. I don't quite know yet. Ooh.
the server, you could modify those packets too. Modifying them would allow you to do things that you otherwise normally couldn't. For example, attacking an NPC that doesn't have an attack option. Kiteneeks and a few others discovered that by modifying packets, you were able to attack bankers, and went on a rampage in Varrock West Bank. Once a Jagex employee named Maud Bennett discovered this, he teleported Kiteneeks out of the bank, had a chat with him about how annoyed he was, and then threw Kiteneeks' account into the black hole. The black hole was basically RuneScape's permanent timeout corner. Rule breakers would be sent here and couldn't escape.
He fought NPCs and Jagex was like, hey, fuck you. Don't do that. Okay, damn.
All you could really do here is lay on the ground and feel like garbage.
Uh-huh.
So Kiteneeks had his fun, but it was time to get back to the problem at hand. Auto Rune was unusable for botting, and he still didn't know how to fix it. Over the next few months, botting activity would hit a new low. Kiteneeks took the Auto Rune forums offline, Evil Cow God technologies would go completely silent, and the era of cheating on RuneScape seemed to be over. That was until Kiteneeks discovered how Jagex caught them. Jagex had updated the RuneScape client so that every 45 actions, like chopping a tree or fishing, the game client would send a secret command to the server. Nobody knew this command existed, so Auto Rune didn't know to send it, so Jagex would know exactly who was cheating when their accounts didn't send the command. They planted this trap on the 25th of November, soon before Auto Rune was sold to Corrin, and banned everyone who was caught by it 2 weeks later once they felt like they had caught everyone. Once Kiteneeks figured this out, he updated Auto Rune to send the secret command, and in April of 2003, published the new fixed version. RuneScape's cheating scene exploded with activity after this. The game's player count was larger than ever before, which meant more players wanted to get ahead than ever before. But the larger cheating got, the more of a problem it became. Jagex made a change that they probably should have just done from the start. They encrypted the packets being sent back and forth between the game client and server, meaning the commands sent between the client and the server were no longer in plain text and could not be easily intercepted or manipulated by external programs like Auto Rune. Kiteneeks, again, was unsure of how to fix Auto Rune, or if it was even possible, so for now, he moved on to creating a new bot. He called it Scar, which fittingly stands for shit compared to Auto Rune. Despite the name, it was well loved by most who tried it. Scar functioned not by messing with packets, but by detecting what colors were on screen and clicking on them. For example, if you had a script to kill chickens, it would identify what a chicken was based on its color and then click on it. However, it had two major flaws. First, it would take control of your mouse, so you couldn't do anything else on your computer while it was running. Second, it was very easy for the bot to make a mistake. If someone was wearing clothing that was the same color of whatever monster or item the bot was clicking on, it could get confused. Players used to mess up flax picking bots by wearing dark green clothes and luring them over to dangerous monsters. So the name Scar probably makes a lot more sense now. Regardless, Scar was popular and worked well enough. Jagex knew their bot problem wasn't going away anytime soon and needed to take more drastic measures. On May 27th, 2003, they did a big overhaul of the fatigue system. Food would no longer lower your fatigue, but to compensate for this, they introduced the sleeping bag, a portable bed that would lower your fatigue to 0 0 from anywhere. However, fatigue also had a new mechanic. Before you could wake up after resting, you would need to enter a randomly generated captcha. 5,400 different words were possible, which were all made up of letters in 50 fonts. There was no way botters would be able to solve this, right? Well, sort of. Kiteneeks and his associates started thinking up ways to solve this problem. The original idea was to create a program that recognizes the words and types them for you, more or less using artificial intelligence to learn and solve the captchas. This idea could work, and a different bot maker would make a program that could do so in 2005, which is honestly just crazy to think about that RuneScape cheaters were using AI in 2005. But Kiteneeks decided against this approach. All Jagex would have to do to break this program and ruin months of training it would be to change the fonts they used. So Kiteneeks eventually came up with a new solution.
Okay.
What if other botters could type the words for you? This idea would eventually morph into two programs, Sleepwalker and Fatigue Operator. Sleepwalker would detect when you were sleeping in-game and upload the captcha to Fatigue Operator. Other players who had Fatigue Operator open would see this captcha and solve it for you. As a reward, they would earn 1 Fatigue Operator point. They could then cash in those points so that when their bots were sleeping, other players would solve their captchas. The idea was that you could spend a bit of time each day solving others' captchas, and then have enough points for your bot to run the rest of the day without you needing to solve its captchas. It was a genius solution, although it took a few versions to really get going. Users discovered that they could edit a few files and trick Fatigue Operator into thinking they had points when they didn't. So they never had to solve captchas and would get theirs solved for free. Kind of funny how not only were these players cheating in RuneScape, but also in the RuneScape cheating program. But a few patches later, the two programs were working as intended. Unlike bots, there was no way for Jagex to detect and break this program. They had no idea if someone was typing words themselves or getting someone else to do it. Kind of like how I don't know if you specifically press the like button on this video or someone else does it, but either way, I appreciate it. In the background, Kiteneeks was getting Auto Rune working again. It turns out that the type of encryption that Jagex was using wasn't very smart. Now, this is a simple explanation of how it worked because it's pretty complex. Basically, all you needed to do was include this long string of text in your program to bypass it. The text more or less says, hey, if you're reading this right now, you're trying to cheat, and here's some scary words to try and stop you. This was the key required to decrypt the game's packets. Although it was really simple, the idea was that if you included this key in your program, Jagex could take you down for violating their copyright. But that wasn't enough to stop Kiteneeks. AutoRune would now read and modify the packets that the client was sending, and then before sending them off to Jagex's servers, would encrypt them to make them look normal. But once Kiteneeks fixed AutoRune, he didn't announce it anywhere, likely due to the potential copyright violation. He only allowed a small subset of members access to the fixed version, as well as a private forum to discuss it on. But this small set of members would do more damage to the game than anyone could have imagined. In November of 2003, Kiteneeks updated AutoRune to include auto trading support. Your bot would now be able to trade with others without you having to do anything. A user named 6 Feet Under was hopeful that he would be able to trade a scythe using this new feature. Scythes were RuneScape's newest rare holiday item, except unlike previous holiday items, if you missed out on getting this one, you couldn't buy it from another player. Jagex had made them untradeable, likely to prevent players from hoarding hundreds of them and hoping they'd dramatically increase in value like every other holiday item they'd given out. While testing, 6 Feet Under couldn't figure out how to trade one, but instead he learned something much more valuable. Using 2 accounts and Auto Rune, he tried adding items to the trade screen that he didn't have in his inventory, basically attempting to spawn items into the trade screen out of thin air. He tried stackable items like coins and runes, but those didn't work. But something peculiar happened when he used an item that didn't stack. For this example, let's say a dragon medium helm. He would have Auto Rune tell the game server that he was adding a dragon medium medium helm to the trade screen on his main account.
Okay.
This worked, as the item appeared in the trade screen, but its quantity was 0, so cool, but useless. But then, Six noticed something strange.
Oh,
on his
shit.
second account, the one supposed to be receiving the item, the game showed that the helmet's quantity was actually 1. Curious, he accepted the trade on both accounts, and to his surprise, a dragon medium helm appeared in his inventory on his second account. 6 Feet Under
Damn.
had discovered how to create any non-stackable item in the game out of thin air. He thought about keeping this discovery to himself. He could slowly create and sell valuable holiday items like party hats and become the richest player the game had ever seen. But he was too excited not to share his discovery. He told Kiteneeks and Auto Rune users Dylock, Gon, Aid, and David how to do it, and soon after, they began creating items like party hats, Christmas crackers, and dragon equipment to try and get rich. But someone couldn't keep a secret. By the next morning, the general public had flooded the game's forums and fan sites with reports of some sort of party hat duplication glitch. The
Who
secret was
snitched?
out. So Kiteneeks, Dylock, and a few others decided to have some fun before Jagex patched it. Over the course of a few hours, they would spawn countless amounts of Christmas crackers in Varrock and use them on random players. Every time a
Okay.
cracker was opened, one player would receive a party hat and the other a random item. So dozens
Cool.
of party hats were entering the game every minute. Lucky players would then turn around and try to sell these party hats for massive profit, but their prices were
No.
quickly crashing as more and more players learned about this glitch. Even RuneScape's #1 player at the time, Bonebreaker6, who was above Zezima, was seen trading Auto Rune users trying to get these cheated in rare items.
Damn.
2 Auto Rune users would also begin spawning in a bunch of Dragon Square shields, one of the most expensive and sought after items in the game. They could try and sell the shields to other players, but they'd either eventually run out of buyers or they'd have to keep dramatically lowering the price. Instead, they used the High Alchemy spell on them, which turned them into 300,000 coins every time. In just a few
Oh.
hours, they had generated billions of gold. Meanwhile, all Jagex could do was sit back and watch. They genuinely had no idea how this glitch was happening.
Is it bad that I low-key feel bad for Jagex? I don't know why. Don't at me. I low-key feel bad for Jagex right now. What the fuck?
Soon after they found out about it, they made a news post informing the community of a few things. First is that they knew the glitch was happening. Second is that they were taking it seriously. They planned to remove the cheated in items from the game and take action against anyone who had them. They said that if you had any, to drop them somewhere quiet to avoid your account being banned.
You know, that is honestly a very fair, that's a very fair, thing to do, I guess. Like, just quietly drop it somewhere and we can pretend like nothing happened. Jagex is in Blizzard? I guess.
Third, they don't know how to fix it yet, but the first person who emailed them information on how to recreate this glitch would be rewarded lifetime membership.
Oh,
Remember
damn.
that last point for later. The next 24 hours, the entire classic community went into a frenzy. Immeasurable amounts of party hats were created and abandoned in obscure RuneScape areas. Over 600 emails were sent to Jagex in just a few hours after their news post, and Jagex began taking action. They
Oh,
would update the
shit.
community a day after their first post, saying that they had fixed the bug, and rather than going after every player who picked up a party hat or two, they would be focusing mainly on catching those who started the glitch. Jagex
that's
fairly
fair.
successfully banned the accounts of most players who had been involved with creating items, as well as those who hoarded hundreds of cheated in party hats. But according to Kiteneeks and a few other Auto Rune users, a lot slipped through the cracks, and
Oh.
I believe them. Jagex had no real way of telling the difference between a real party hat and one that had been duplicated, so they realistically had no way of tracking down every single party hat that had entered the game. To try
That's
and put the
true.
community at ease, Jagex claimed that the number of party hats in circulation was less than it was a year ago, and that a rollback would be an overreaction. But even if that was true, prices of party hats and the Christmas cracker would crash so hard that they wouldn't all recover to pre-glitch values until nearly 2 years later in mid-2005. Plus, the rarity of each hat would also change dramatically. The pink party hat, or purple party hat as it's called today, used to be the rarest and thus most valuable party hat, as it had the lowest pull rate from Christmas crackers. But because so many were created created during this glitch, it fell to last place for nearly 2 decades. And what about that lifetime membership that Jagex had promised? Funnily enough, Dialock, one of the Auto Rune users who learned the glitch from 6 Feet Under, had emailed Jagex how it was done. And instead of getting lifetime membership, he was just banned. Which kinda makes sense. It's
Get fucked, snitch! Oh my god, let's go!
like if the police put out a $10,000 reward to identify a murderer, and the murderer shows up to the police station the next day like, I've caught the murderer, $10,000 please. It's not known if anyone ever did receive lifetime membership, or if it was just a false incentive for someone to come forward, but regardless, it worked and the glitch was over. Although Jagex had taken their revenge in the form of bans and item removal, they were still furious. They wanted to defeat Auto Rune once and for all this time, but it would take a while to think of how. In the meantime, Auto Rune users now realized how powerful the software they were using truly was. It was no longer just a bot client, but a toy to break RuneScape with. Players discovered how to create bearded lady characters, attack and kill themselves in the wilderness, cast spells without runes, and even create characters that were invisible aside from their white dot on the minimap. It was a really fun time to be a rule breaker on RuneScape. Maybe as fun as watching me stream RuneScape live every weekday. Over there, I talk about a ton of obscure RuneScape history that's too short to make it into a video. Just go to the link on screen or check out the description below. Corin, AutoRune's owner, would soon sell the source code and rights to another player named Josh. This sale didn't go over well with most of the community. Josh was a known scammer and account seller, who is these days allegedly doing time for fraud and embezzlement. Kiteneeks also wasn't happy about this.
That sucks! What the hell? Okay, what's his name? The guy who, the second guy who owned it? You kinda threw for the community, buddy. What the fuck? Selling to a scammer is insane.
Sale. Josh began selling Auto Rune accounts to new people, to the point where it was too many. Kiteneeks knew that they were getting too big again, and it wouldn't be long before Jagex would take action. Kiteneeks decided that he wanted to be done. The next time Jagex broke Auto Rune, he didn't plan to fix it. So Kiteneeks decided to create an authentication server where anyone could get an Auto Rune account for free. Once again, Auto Rune blew up overnight. It got so big that one of its users even made what is probably the first RuneScape themed rap song. And it's no lie, pretty catchy. I can't play it since the beat is copyright, but link in the description. It seemed like just about everyone you walked past was botting, but Jagex had been cooking up a solution that would end Auto Rune, even if Kiteneeks, for some reason, changed his mind on not fixing it. Jagex decided to encrypt their game packets with some real cryptography. The scary message from before very clearly didn't work. Using a cipher called Isaac, they made it impossible for programs like Auto Rune to modify and inject packets, and there was no simple trick to get around it like last time. Auto Rune was once again completely broken, and with that, Kiteneeks decided it was time to retire. We'll discuss where he is today later, but before he left the RuneScape cheating community, he posted a message with so much ego behind it, even Kanye would be impressed. My purpose in this cheating community from the very beginning was to educate the cheaters, to get out of their heads that stupid ideology that they have had for too long. Download, run, hope it's not a Trojan. From the very beginning, my cheats were different. I am not necessary for this community to exist. I could not decide if I should say this or not. I will. The main reason why I leave is, I'm different than you. Why am I cheating? It's an intellectual challenge for me. I am not doing it for money or skills, no. However, I wish RuneScape cheating a long life. Remember guys, you used to be like those noobs that join our channels and ask for cheats to be sent to their email. Look at yourself now. Look at how clever you have become.
Boy, that's one hell of an ego you've got.
In a strange twist of fate, Kiteneeks leaving wouldn't be the end of Auto Rune, sort of. When Corin sold the Auto Rune source code to Josh, Josh had a keylogger on his computer that he didn't know about. So soon after purchasing the code, whoever gave him the keylogger stole it and published it online for free. This would lead to a number of programmers downloading this source code and attempting to make their own versions of Auto Rune. The most infamous version of which was Buckna's Ashy Rune. Most information on how this version worked, including how they bypassed Jagex's encryption, has been lost to time. But Ashy Rune was enough of a problem for Jagex to attempt to get rid of it. When trying to do so, Mod Mark allegedly downloaded the client, logged into it with his Jmod account, and had his login stolen. Rune had a keylogger secretly installed that Mark didn't know about.
Damn.
Unfortunately, there's no screenshots to confirm this story, but Kiteneeks placed it in the Auto Rune achievements section on his now defunct website. But you might be wondering what Kiteneeks is up to today. Without going into too much detail, he never returned to RuneScape, and would instead soon go on to become a father and co-founder of an e-commerce website builder company. The company has now been around for over a decade, so he seems to be doing well for himself.
Jesus!
Kiteneeks' AutoRune antics are now over 2 decades old, but no matter how much time passes, the effect he had on the game will never be erased. Many of the party hats created back in 2003 still exist today, and just like any normal party hat, go for billions upon billions of gold. If you remember those bearded lady accounts from earlier, when RuneScape 2 launched, they were faithfully converted over, meaning anyone with a bearded lady account in Classic got to keep it in RuneScape 2, which also means those accounts still exist in RuneScape 3. Scar,
Damn.
Kiteneeks' other bot client, was soon picked up by a few other developers after Kiteneeks vanished, and was one of the game's most popular bots, even far into the RuneScape 2 days. A version of it even still exists today, but RuneScape's bot detection has improved leaps and bounds since the events of this video, so don't use it. If you enjoyed this video, check out the one on the right about RuneScape's first glitch. No matter what Jagex tried to do to fix it, it would just keep coming back.
That's kind of insane. Also, the fact that he ended up like having his own e-commerce like site, it makes so much sense, right? It kind of makes so much sense. Like this guy's entire like life trajectory is so fucking crazy. It makes sense. I kind of hate that it makes sense too. Ooh. Yeah, what the fuck? I mean, I guess if I were one of the guys who dropped my hat, I'd be pissed, you know?